It's Tromonte and friends. Let's have a conversation.
So, welcome to Tromonte and Friends. Have another episode with my brother. My brother, introduce yourself.
My name is Desmond. Uh, uh, Desmondo Eclectica. Some people have called me. You know, that's what my bass teacher. You can see a bass behind me.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his hat. He's in. That's what my hat. But masquerading as he does, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, um, yeah. My name's Desmond, man, and yeah, that's about it. That's my introduction.
Desmond's being a little too humble. A little too humble. He is an instrumentalist. He's a poet. He's a servant, and he's a human.
Ooh, well, thank
And we're going to start. We're going to start from the most recent happenings, and then we're going to work our way back.
you.
So
Okay.
you recently were casted to play in Hotel Good Luck. How was
Yeah.
that experience?
Oh man. I guess you could say that it's it was the expression of everything I've ever dreamed of happening in real time and explaining itself to me and allowing me to do it through me effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like that. It was like the way that the breath moves through the body. It was like that's the way it all happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I purposefully was just pretty inebriated the whole time, purposefully, as an experiment to see how much I could let go and still be held on the wings of love. It felt like that. And it actually works. You just let go and it all just happens. But that process, which is what the play is about.
Mm-hmm.
You, the play is about the acceptance of death, and I play a character who's a bassist and a psychoanalyst and the main character's best friend. And his name is Dr. Ticino, Larry Ticino. My best friend. That's his line. That's the opening line. Um, so anyway, my job is actually in the play is to show this guy that it's possible to come to the brink of death and come out unscathed. But he's unwilling to accept that truth. So he continuously goes through this portal uh,
Mm-hmm.
in a refrigerator. And and every time he goes through that portal, he wakes up in another dimension. And um, in that other dimension, one of his family members, which was previously alive with him in the earlier dimension, is now dead. So he keeps finding all these family members dead, and then he goes through this, and then he goes back through the portal, and then he finds them alive again on this in this beautiful sea, in this, and he keeps waking up, and he keeps doing this dance, bam, 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 on and off, zero and one. One could say, you could say zero and one, and to me, like an on and off switch, I don't know how it works, but whatever, you know what I mean. You guys gotta look at your fucking. But yeah, so to me, that's what it's talking about, the on and off switch. And in this case, that on and off switch is encapsulated by a refrigerator. That's the portal to an alternate dimension, which the Dr. Tassino refers to as dimensional simultaneity. And that means multiple dimensions happening at once, and they're happening as a result of the slightest movement that we make. Every little movement, one of the lines is every little movement that we make, Bobby, every little movement instantly opens up an adjacent universe that we can't see. That and then it goes on from there. So it's just talking about how our being has this timeless or sort of Caducean toroidal effect to it. It's like, um, yeah, it's more like this and less like this.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that I was talking to my mom about, just to bounce off of that, which was, she said, what did she say? She said, she was telling me about, we were talking about the civil rights movement and a little bit about what I was telling you about Jan Willis and Angela Davis. And she said, after telling me about working with Liberation Theology Cat, she said something about Martin Luther King. And I always remember, because I was telling her how much I appreciate her, because even though she's a white parent, I grew up with Dr. King and Malcolm X and my picture in between. That was my mom's mantle.
Mm.
And so when I when I saw when I started thinking about it and thinking about this play and that Caducean thing and that on and off switch and a bunch of other shit happened, which I could tell you about, but I started thinking, oh, this is what me and my friend Lyrae, poet who I work with, we've been kind of hitting on in our own direction. And we actually both met, one could say, in a previous dimension, because she grew up going to a Pentecostal church right down the road from Stetson University, where I went to college, my undergrad. But then I dropped out after 2 years. I was in music school, and then I started doing cocaine, and I was like, nah, I can't do music school, is too hard, man. I got to drop one. So I dropped music school and I became and I became a study. I went to the study of Middle Eastern history, and I went to that because I realized that was a much more, it was easier than music school, I guess. I could just sit there and talk shit and anyway, I say all that to say, and help me when I get lost, please, because my mind does that, you know. It's like, and that's kind of the point. As I'm talking, I'm trying to also express a new concept of time, whereby it's Caducean. It's not this way. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Like when Dr. King said those words, it seemed as though, like, you think about the pyramids, and it seems as though that pyramid that was at the base of that pool, the reflection pool that he spoke against, that it shot that voice because it was existing in that concept of time. And Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher, who's you know, older now, he's retiring in Vietnam. He said that he was good friends with Dr. King, and he said Dr. King was a bodhisattva. That means someone who comes back from the brink of death to share the truth. And he said it. I've been to the mountaintop. I'm not worried about it. So I was telling my mom, yeah, it's as if within that concept of time, that bodhisattva shot those words across that wave pool. Boom. Mm-hmm. And it hit that pyramid. And then I found out, something told me, my big bird, that I feel like it didn't shoot through it. It just shot it up it shot that energy up to space. And to tell someone that there's a different concept of time. If that were the case, if he were a bodhisattva and all of this in my imagination was true, then the purpose in my imagination is to change the concept of time, which to me never really worked. And I don't think it really worked for black people. I don't think it works for black people. This direct concept of time, linear. Because when I was living in Mexico, it's almost as if they went out of their way to not make things linear.
Mm.
And I think that that's what they're hitting on. It's more natural. And they have a concept called they have a soup in Mexico called sopa de milpa. And it's a predecessor to what is that thing called permaculture, where you, instead of gardening in such a meticulous way like the English gardening style, you garden by not gardening. And in Zen they call that doing without doing. And that's what I was hitting on earlier. It's like you're just doing it, and then you're watching yourself do it. And then you're watching the beautiful undulation and Kadushian dance of your own body, which is just an emanation of everything that is. Because you'll start to see it everywhere. You start to see it. It says in this text I have, this scripture I have, it says, trust in mind. The supreme way is only difficult for those who pick and choose. So that means, can't go this way, heaven, hell. Where's the way, we say? Heaven, hell. Oh, that's the narrow passageway that leads to everlasting life. It's here. But that's why I started putting my hair up, because I said, if the concept of time is not this way, then it's this way, like Da Vinci said. It's three-dimensional, but we got to wake up to that three dimension, because I feel like it's time. We've been going this way for too long. And even when you're on the road, I spend a lot of time on the road, and you'll see, probably because of the Teamsters Union, no offense to them, but you got two cars with the same materials on their back going, two semi-trucks, east and west, going cross country. Why is that? Because people got to get paid. So you do stupid shit to make money. And you avoid the slowdown, which is the thing that has given me the fluidity to be what Cornel West says, a jazz musician in the world of ideas and a blues man in the life of the mind. And then when asked, well, what does that mean? A blues man in the life of the mind, he said, he quoted B.B. King. He said, nobody loves me but my mama, and she might be jiving too. So when I heard that, I said, damn, this guy, he knows a little bit something about death and being human. Which, from my understanding, is one and the same,
Yeah. Last year, you were kind of featured in a New York Times article. You and Ashley Frith, that's her name, if I said it correctly.
Yeah.
And an article called "These Shows Are Made for Walking."
Yeah.
And you performed something about grief, the grief process, correct?
Grief process, yeah.
How was performing that, and then more so, how has the pandemic affected you and shaped you since it has occurred?
How was performing that, and how has the pandemic affected and shaped me since it has occurred? Oh man, that's a good one. Which one do you want me to answer first?
Hey, go with what you feel.
Okay. Well, fuck. Okay, I'll tell you my first experience from the pandemic, man.
All right.
I'm leaving my crib, the Zen Center. I was staying at the Zen Center, which happens to be oddly enough on State Road or County Road 126, which is a number I've been seeing a lot in my life for a long time. Actually, ever since I met Ashley Frith, uh, because her birthday is on January 26th. And she told me that she said, I always feel like I'm going to die on January 26th. And that was her message to me. I feel like I'm going to die on January 26th. Anyway, I just always remember that birthday and that number because we dated for many years and we lived together and we just go way back. We're best friends. We live together now, but in a different capacity. But anyway, I'm leaving the Zen Center coming off of County Road 126, and I pull up at this gas station. I was with a woman that I'm seeing, and her name is Christine. And so I was chilling with her. We were leaving to go back to her spot, and she lives in Connecticut. And so we're on our way back to Connecticut, but I had to stop to get some gas. So I went to go get some gas, and I had just heard. I think it was March 15th. I was like, man, I'm going to Connecticut because then I could just chill with her, parlay at her spot. She's got it all set up. I'm messy as hell. She's clean. So it's better over there. And she just cool. It was just a beautiful time. So we're chilling. Pull over at this gas station and I didn't know much about the pandemic. I've been watching Democracy Now! And just hearing, oh shit, So I pull up and I take, how we do in Florida, like you put your fucking cap in the thing, in the gas can, because you want to, well, whatever, you're being lazy or whatever. In Florida, it's because you're being lazy, but up there, maybe it's because you're cold or whatever you got going on. But in this case, I didn't want to grab the thing because I didn't know, I didn't want to hold it because I was afraid of the germs, So anyway, this guy is watching me, this old white dude, he's watching me. And he's like, and I see him watching me. I noticed that. People be watching me. I noticed that out the corner of my eye, So then I just kept going inside. Then I came back out and he policed me. He said, he said, hey, you know that right there is a $5,000 fine? And I'm a police officer, and I'm not in this county, but I'm in another county right near here, and something. Blah 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 blah. I said, hey man, I didn't know, sorry. And then I thought, well, let me try to educate him. Let me try to say maybe he can because I know that this is a big deal, a lot of my relatives are imprisoned or getting shot or, fucking dying because they're running from the police. Like, I got so many fucking stories like that. I was coming from the Zen Center, I'm trying to gently educate this police officer, Maybe undulate the status quo a little bit, But as soon as I started to speak up, he said, hey, listen here, man. Up until this point, you seem like a pretty nice guy, but if you keep talking, we're gonna have a problem. Something like that, You know how they do it. Shit, man, you seen that shit before, man. He just switched the tone up. And I thought about Derek Chauvin and George Floyd, on the brink of his trial. I guess it works that comes up, and I thought about a concept that I had read about or found somewhere about sapiosexual pleasure and the historicity of sapiosexual pleasure, particularly meted out by black men being dominated by white men. That's a sapiosexual sadistic, right? It's like sadism, like that dude, that white dude, you know. So I thought, because I'm half white and I feel comfortable around white people, I could just say the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't having it, and so I had a choice to make. I had a choice to make. Do I fight or flight? You know. But I just chose to. I guess what I did, I chose to die. In that moment, I chose to die, and I just bowed my head. To me, for all intents and purposes, the devil himself. I bowed to him. And yeah, that was the beginning of the pandemic for me. I bowed to a police officer. And kept it moving, And I was frustrated with Christine at the time because she didn't know how to save me. I tried to talk to her, I said, because she was in the car in front of me. I said, that really hurt me. That hurt. And I didn't know what to do. And then she couldn't save me. Which is a replica, that happens, right? Because that makes me think of what has been neutered in the black community, which is, I think one of the things that slavery to me neutered was the natural propensity for, you say, for one brother to help another. Because that natural propensity to love, as you say, is the king, right? The God himself is love. That natural propensity to love another when they're under scrutiny or suffering, or in this case, lynching, is to try to help. But if that is punishable by death, then that natural urge to undulate towards your love is neutered. And it's pretty, it's powerful, It's like, because I think it was powerful that she couldn't help me because I had to die. And within the context of the play, that's the key. Die before you die. Mm-hmm. And then you will be freed, from suffering. So in that moment when I started the pandemic by bowing to a police officer, yeah, that was the beginning for me.
Yeah. And your performance with Ashley, y'all performed the grief process. How has your grieving process been during the pandemic with all of the social injustices occurring, which have always kind of occurred, but it seems like it was more highlighted in 2020? And because I know you're deep into meditation, how has the power of meditation helped you through this time? Because we're still going through it. I know people think because it's a new year that COVID is over and things like that, but it's not over. It's still very relevant today.
It's over down in Florida, man. When I was down there, that shit was over. That shit, I was down there in the middle of it. Shit was shut down here. They had all the tape up and everything. And Florida was like, they was doing yoga classes.
Yeah.
You wear the fucking mask up to the desk, and then you check in, and then you go into the little fucking yoga class, and I'm like, man, this place is fucking crazy, man.
It is.
I love it. I love it, but it's fucking crazy down. Y'all crazy down there. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful, crazy. It's a beautiful, crazy place, man. But yeah, grief process during the pandemic and how has meditation helped that, man? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a story. I ran into Josh Collier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I ran into Josh Collier at the Cuban spot off of Bush in Nebraska.
I
Oh,
know where it's at.
yeah, you know that right by Interstate Lounge.
Yeah,
Right by, you remember the crunk parties?
yeah.
Man, right by where the crunk parties used to be at the fucking at that hotel right there. Yes. Nigga, I know, man. I know. I was there too. Come on, somebody they was sleeping on me and they said something. Oh, I think it was somebody else. Dominique Burt. Shout out to her. I saw her on Facebook, and she said something about the Sugar Shack. I said, man, I know about the Sugar Shack. I was up in the Sugar Shack. Wait a minute. After hours?
Hey, Des, you were everywhere.
Huh?
You were everywhere.
No. Yeah, I was everywhere, man. So anyway, somebody was sleeping on me to get back on point. Somebody was sleeping on me because they said something about go yams. And I said, oh yeah, go yams. Get off your ass and move something. They said, what? I said, yeah, I remember that. Because that was right by Middleton. And there was a lot of shit happening there. And I think that all of those memories have been how meditation has helped me during the grief process and during the pandemic. And it's like that. It's like the memories of my loved ones from early moments in my life and thinking about your smile and your vibe from back in the day. And I just saw you on fucking Facebook, you know, saying goodbye to the last projects. Well, I think Robles is still there, but I think that's the last one.
It is. I was telling my wife that it's the last one.
Hey, guess what? I was down in the park on Robles playing bass.
Oh yeah.
I was down in the park playing bass by the water and just standing there in flowing clothing, not playing football, not shooting hoops. I could do all of those, but nope, I was playing bass because I said, these kids need to see something different.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all, because you just need to see it. Oh, this motherfucker's doing something different. Oh, okay. And they asked me about it. They'll come up into the park. And I went down to the park and they'll come in and they'll say, it was a little kid, a little Mexican kid, and his whole family. And I was down at that other park, the one downtown,
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Waterworks or whatever. Anyway, this one little kid came up to me and I was playing bass and he said, I know what you could do with that thing, that bass. I said, what's that? That big violin, he called it. He said, you can play calm down songs for people. I said, wow. And that bounced my mind to another conversation that I had many years back with my teacher, my bass teacher, who said, in this modern era, Desmond, I don't know how to teach these kids. I feel like more like an emotional counselor than a bass teacher. I don't know what to do anymore. I think it's the phone, he said. And then it hit me. Oh yeah, it's the speed and the direction. And that little kid saw the potential of the bass to not do anything. There is a history of people who didn't do anything. They just sat and did nothing and played music. Man, who that look like? But yeah, a Sufi scribe. But he never wrote his words down. That's why I called you that when I texted you. I forget his name. the scribe, Muhammad's scribe. Because this cat didn't, he never really scribed it. Other people had to scribe it because he would just play music. And he would come and give lectures and play because it was mostly about the sound and the opening of the oral cavity that creates the experience of mental freedom from addictions like the sapiosexual pleasure of the experience of Derek Chauvin killing George Floyd, or those other dudes hunting down Ahmaud Arbery. When you're just jogging, just fucking jogging, living your life, actually doing your life's purpose, which is, in my opinion, undulation of the toroidal tube. There's a whole African history and historicity to this movement. You know, I call it swag, but it's undulation of the toroidal tube, and this cat knew how to open that up because everywhere there are toroidal tubes, and the oral cavity is the first one. That's why one of the last things my grandmother, they say when I was playing for my grandmother, she was dying in hospice in Temple Terrace. She said, they said, yeah, you can play for her. And Ashley and I played for her as she lay dying. And they said, yeah, your ears, they can still hear. So that bounced off. Oh, why could they still hear? Oh, this is the first toroidal tube. It's everywhere. Love is everywhere. But when you say love, this is not love. That's the toroidal tube. That's on and off switch. If I put a 1 in the center of that, it looks like your on and off switch on your power button. It's everywhere. And for me to know that space, it exists here, you know, it's more pronounced like on animals like owls. You can really see it. Because according to some ideas, the whole world is appearing in order for you to see that you're free. You're free from suffering. So, what was the question again?
Going forward, Des,
Yes, sir.
do you believe in the new administration that we have in place with
Yeah.
Biden and Harris and everyone else that's a part of this next 4 to 8 years, hopefully? You know, we never know. And do you feel like a weight was lifted now that Trump is out of office? Because his people are still around. So he may be out of office, but his ideology is still prevalent today.
Well, this is one of the things I was talking to my mom about last night, actually. And through the concept of music, once again, sorry to keep going back to music.
Do your thing, man.
It's my job. What can I say? Uh, but I was telling her about this documentary that I watched called The Brink. You familiar with it?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
So it opens with Steve Bannon giving this beautiful talk in which he's enraptured with the idea of the Nazi concentration camps. And he says, this is the opening monologue. He's got this beautiful smile, which is kind of interesting. He looks it's the best I've ever seen him look. He's talking about the Nazis and he looks great. He's like, you can almost see all the cups of coffee that went into the intelligence that created these death camps. And that's when it hit me. Oh, this reminds me of classical music. And if I can explain. when he said that, I saw how he was feeling it. He was feeling it here. And he was stimulated by the intellectual idea of death. But according to this text right here, got to pull out my boy, pull out all my heroes. Shout out to Joshu Sasaki Roshi. This is a text on his 100th year. He died at 107. And but I was saying something earlier. I ran into this. Xing Yang's and other translations of the Chungtai Translation Committee based on Master Sheng Yin's teachings. And it's a scripture called Trust in Mind. So it says, Supreme Way, we said it earlier, Supreme Way is difficult only for those who pick and choose. Simply let go of love and hate. The way will fully reveal itself. The slightest distinction results in a difference as great as heaven and earth. For the way to manifest, hold not to likes and dislikes. The contention of likes and dislikes is a disease of the mind. And without realizing the profound principle, it is futile to practice stillness. Intrinsically perfect, like the great void, without lack, without excess. In choosing to grasp or reject, one is blinded to suchness. Neither pursue conditioned existence nor stay idle in emptiness. In oneness and equality, all self-boundaries dissolve. Trying to still action is an action itself. Still trapped in duality, how can you recognize oneness? Failing to penetrate the meaning of oneness, neither side will function. Banishing existence entwines you in existence, and pursuing emptiness turns you away from it. But the Buddha said that you should pursue emptiness like a dying man or a drowning man pursuing his last breath. But this guy says, don't pursue it. So who do we listen to? The Buddha, who said, kill the Buddha if you see the Buddha.
He did.
Right? So, oh, okay. Throw this shit out the window. You know, fuck that. It's you, man. You know what I'm saying? Like when you put that thing up on YouTube, on Facebook, you said something about the king is here. You said the king is here, and you were talking about one of the cats from Capone Jones. What's his name? I forget his name.
You talking about De Janeiro?
De Janeiro. Yeah. It was De Janeiro.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
Yeah, hey, and wasn't he staying with Josh Collier?
At one point, I think it was.
That's when to get back to that. You see how it works?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I met him at on Bush. He was staying. Josh Collier was staying with De Janeiro over by Interstate Lounge, and we met at this little Cuban spot. You know, that little Cuban spot right there, right by the Mobile. That's a spot right there. Hey, shout out! What is the name of that place?
I forget.
Man, shout out to that place. Hey, if anybody in Tampa, go to that fucking place. That's the spot. I'm trying to put people on, man. But anyway, yeah, Steve Bannon to me was fixated. He's right in a sense. Death can be beautiful. Intellect can be beautiful. But the intellectual constructs that murder, which is the weight and the ruse that we're under right now. This is the helmet that we're wearing. That to me is a fixation on the final chakra. Fixation here. The life of the mind is beautiful, like we said earlier. Cornel West said, I'm a jazz musician in the life of the mind, not a classical musician.
Mm-hmm.
Classical musician, you learn your part. I'm reading the notes. I know what's going on. Everything's clear. I'm looking at the conductor. Da, 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 da. You know, it's there for you. But then when you really meet the masters, I met the masters and played with the master classical musicians of the United States of America. Sat with them and played concerts with them. And they are free of all of that shit. They're jazz musicians again. So because they penetrate the last chakra, boom, and they realize, oh, my body. There's a documentary called The Arm of Bach. It's a Dutch documentary by one of my favorite cellists, Honor Bilsma. Shout out to Honor Bilsma. Like he says, he's a jazz musician when he plays the Bach suites. So I always honor that. But he plays them on a Baroque cello. He's a Baroque cellist. He's old school. And
Mm-hmm.
Baroque means Baroque and pearl. It means irregular pearl, irregularly shaped pearl.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that means that the Baroque or the Baroque is the beautiful. You know what I mean? The irregularly shaped pearl is the dream of these men that I was showing you, man. This guy and Hazrat Khan. Like those guys together have a vision. One is about seeing the doorway through the top chakra or the Steve Bannon fixation on the mind, you could call it in reality, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or uh but it has to be the truth has to be penetrated, in my opinion, via the oral cavity because that's the initial birthplace of the mind. Boom. You hear sound when you come from the womb. When you're in the womb, you hear sound.
That's
You
true.
hear them babies dancing in there. You see them. What was the question?
Hey man, you answer the question however you feel. You go into you almost speak your own language. I like that.
We're
You
getting
don't
there.
you don't give like run of the mill typical responses to things.
I can't do that. That's one thing I can't do.
But I do appreciate you coming on, Des. I know I wish the episode was much longer, but
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think you said a lot and you were pretty concise with what you're saying. And then I will even have to go back and rewatch this episode to see some of the things you said.
Cool.
But you always speak from the heart.
Yeah.
And I always appreciate that. And you always give yourself room when you speak. You give yourself room for to be wrong. You don't say things in a matter of fact way. You're right. And one of your responses, you're like, in my opinion, you're truly speaking from yourself. You're not letting all of these influences, especially with social media, kind of corrupt you in a way where you can't stay true to who you are. You see, you rolling up right now. You staying true to who you are. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's the grand slowdown, man. And this, to me, if it's legal here, I got my medical card. It's like it is the grand slowdown, and we need to slow down. And if we had more time, I would tell you about the tempo that I imagine that we can slow down to, which is 417 hertz. 417, man. It matters. 417 equals 12, man. We need to slow down. That's my final message.
Mm,
And the process by which we can slow down is through pleasure activism. Adrienne Marie Brown. And she says, smoke trees and eat psilocybin mushrooms, put
mm-hmm,
them in smoothies, microdose them, start small, microdose them, and open up. What it's doing is, I found out what it's doing. It's releasing chi.
mm-hmm,
Chi in America is stuck lymphatic fluid, and we need to slow down and release the chi. Do qigong, breathe, get in nature, and follow the natural undulation of your true heart, the
mm-hmm,
toroidal tube.
mm-hmm. Hey, thank you for your final message, and thank you, my brother, for coming on, man, and joining me. I definitely have to get with you and come visit, because you've been down here a couple of times, low key, you know. So I definitely have to come visit, man. I love you so much. I want to get with you soon, and don't forget, between me and you, the last time I seen you, you're supposed to send me something, and you didn't send it to me. So you
Well,
have my email now.
it's coming. It's coming. It
Okay.
was getting finished. It was. We
Okay.
just did a beautiful video of an extension of it, and
Hmm.
it's all coming together. And like I said, you are the scribe. You know, somebody. Last thing I'll say is somebody asked me. I was talking all this shit to a couple of people, and they said, "Hey, you should do a TED talk." And I said, "Man, fuck that. I don't know TED like that. I know Tremonte. I'm going on Tremonte and Friends, man. Fuck that." So, hey, man, I'm trying to support you, man. Let's do it together, man. Please. Let's make it
Okay.
happen, man. Let's bring you say love is God and love is the king. Let's bring the king here. And let's bring the king by way of the projects because we know we can salute the small things. That's where we come from, humble beginnings. I think of all
Yeah.
those cats we grew up with, and man, those are some of the most beautiful fucking cats I ever met.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've been to the mountaintop. I've been to the fucking peak. Ivy League schools, all of that shit. Nobody's as real as those cats from the projects right there by Booker T. I didn't have to go anywhere.
Mm.
And I remember the wrestling coach, Nelson, who lived there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ronald Nelson. Yeah.
Yeah, Ronald Nelson. I remember he was trying to prove the real sin was he went to the military, did all that. And then I later found out he did all that because he was trying to prove himself to Pat Lucas. That self-hating principle. She hated black people. She was mad at her own blackness. And she
Mm.
had an anger about that from my experience of her. And I saw her take it out on people. But the pain what pained me was that I saw all this beautiful character in Ronald Nelson, and he taught me how to wrestle, which added, he said, uh, pain is weakness leaving the body. And he said he learned that in the military. I later found out that pain is actually chi leaving the body. It's not weakness. And chi is strength, it's energy, it's not weakness.
Mm.
But he was close. But he had genius. But Pat, the principal, couldn't see it. She chastised him. But you know who didn't chastise him? The crazy Coach Brown, who was jogging around in his underwear in the locker room, undulating his toroidal tube in circles, right? He was
Mhm.
running and he was sweating and he was going crazy and he was drinking those cayenne pepper drinks to cleanse it. He knew because black people have this connection to the core, to our core. When you say words in Arabic, like my friend Saad Haddad, Saad Haddad, and if you say that correctly, you have to use the body from here. But when you say, "Hello, my name is Desmond Bratton," and you speak it from here, it's stuck. And so the message comes from the core, it needs to come from the bottom, it needs to come from us. And we from the bottom of the map, so who better than us?
Mm. Mm. That's real. That's real, man.
Yeah.
And hey, man, please stay safe up there during everything that's going on. And I will get with you soon, man. This is Desmond. This is Tremonte. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.
Love you, man. Love you, man.